84% of all business transformations fail because organizations don't know where to focus, don't know how to scale, or don't understand how to identify the path to value. So, how do you find out which ideas will yield the best value? With limited budgets, time, and people, you need to narrow down your ideas by filtering what's most important to you and your organization in a quantified and measurable way. By discovering what will drive the most return for your business, you're creating a vision and increasing the success of your MVP. To prove the value of your vision, we build, test, and iterate to meet your goals. But before we can dive in, let's break it down into smaller tasks. How your organization executes its business transformation is just as important as the project itself. Start by prioritizing backlogs and pain points, unlocking new value, and creating a new and lasting culture of change from the inside out, scaling innovation into transformation. Let's create new ways for your business to do business with IBM Garage from IBM Consulting.
How many of you have ever worked on a product or features to a product for weeks, months, and I heard the confessions from yesterday, or years, and hopefully not years in this scenario, but to find that your customers didn't actually want that product, or your adoption rates were significantly lower than you expected, or you're 6 months down the road in delivery and you have no ROI to show for it. Unfortunately, that happens a whole lot more than we'd like to admit. And the reality is products fail not because the teams or the people aren't smart, not because the technology wasn't right. They fail because we built the wrong thing. We built the product without the end user in mind, or we built the right thing in the wrong way or at the wrong time. My name's Matthew Certner. I lead digital product engineering and design for IBM Consulting, responsible for go-to-market across the Americas. I'm very thankful in that role because I get to meet with clients weekly, and I get to learn from the best and what they're doing extremely well, the top performers who are generating the most revenue and the most ROI. And I also get to hear the opposite, those that have those pain points, those that are struggling to push things into production, people that are not seeing the revenue that they expected. I'm also here to talk about a recent study that IBM did with the IBM Business Value, or Institute for Business Value, where we interviewed 1,000 product engineering executives around their use of generative and agentic AI in product engineering. The results showed a few things. First, 1 in 5 product teams still are not using generative AI in any part of the development life cycle. And we're going to call those discovery, design, development, and support. Now, that's a huge disadvantage, right? Because companies today, they face this unique paradox where if you move too slowly, you risk irrelevance. If you move too quickly, then you risk pouring millions of dollars and millions of hours into features that nobody will use. Generative and agentic AI have completely changed the game. I'm sure you've heard that throughout the last 2 days, right? It's streamlined all of the processes, all of the development lifecycle stages that I mentioned right here, besides that I mentioned. It's absolutely democratized access to design, code, testing, and scaling. It's removed all of the barriers to experimentation. If we think, and I'm only referring to that 0%, right? Or the 21% that are not using it in any way, shape, or form. There's no reason not to use it when it's accelerating so many of the phases of product engineering today. You're already going into the design phase or discovery phase from day one. You can analyze market signals, customer feedback, customer benchmarking. You can meet with customers on day one around what designs are going to look like, wireframes, concepts, golden threads, which I'll talk to you as an accelerator to use in your clients tomorrow. In the build phase, of course, you have agentic automation. You have AI coding assistance that's shrinking development cycles. Or in the support phase, how AI now is almost coming up with the continuous, new recommendations to enhance your features or better ways to do day 2 operations. We can go on and on about this list. Come visit the IBM booth. It's directly behind you guys. Let's talk about not only the benefits of agentic and generative AI, but also Watson X and Watson X Orchestrate, and how we can provide a single solution to orchestrating your AI agents and assistants and workflows custom to your product and your industry needs. So what is holding companies back from scaling Gen AI? Right? If you want to be competitive, if you want to generate the most return, if you want to stay ahead of the curve and take advantage of that first mover advantage, you need to use the tools and technology that are so readily available. But you have to use it with intent. I said it before, right? If you move too quickly without clarity or focus, you're just going to pour millions of dollars into products that nobody uses. There's 3 reasons why companies aren't using it today. I'm not going to focus so much on these as I am the behaviors that the high-performing teams exhibit, but I want to throw these on the board. And if these resonate with you, if you see these in your teams today, again, come talk to us at the IBM booth. We'll talk about how to convert these challenges into opportunities. But the 3 reasons that companies aren't scaling generative AI today is because they are technically stretched, they face prioritization overload, or they're capability constrained. Now, of the teams that are using generative AI in product engineering, only 27% of them feel that Gen AI is actually delivering upon its functional benefits. And even less, only 23% felt that it was delivering on its financial benefits. That was surprisingly low. But the key word here is promised. While they are showing value, companies just had expected it to be a bit higher. When we looked at the top performing, though, the top 20% of customers, well, they were seeing ROI of upwards of 60%. But when we took the median of all of the companies in the survey, they were only seeing 36%. That's a huge gap. So I want you to ask yourselves, where do you and your company sit on that spectrum of value? And what can you do differently to ensure that you're driving the most value and the most ROI for generative AI? By the way, it's almost consistent, the value and the gap between the top and the ROI across all of the industries. I'll leave this up if you want to take a photo of where your respective companies sit. But what this shows us is there is a lot of potential to increase the ROI that each of your companies see in leveraging generative AI in building product. It's come down to behaviors, 4 behaviors and team dynamic that is differentiating the high performers from the median, and then for those who are even, seeing less or no ROI. And these 4 behaviors, the first one is flexibility. Teams that are high-performing teams don't rigidly stick to just one way of working, right? Teams that can adjust, that can pivot, that can take, customer feedback and user feedback and experiential learning and change their strategy. Well, they were seeing upwards of 50% ROI compared to that 36-35% median. This is especially important when we think about generative AI because AI models, they need to constantly be flexible. They need to adjust, right? It's the models by nature, they're evolving constantly, and that's what inherently is what's drawing their value. The second is incremental and targeted. You can't build everything all at once. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see customers do. You need to break things into bite-sized pieces of value. You need to deliver things. You need to push things into production. You need to get feedback from your customers. You need to change to make sure that you're being extremely maniacally focused on what you're delivering and when. And we're going to talk a little bit about the golden thread, which is a really great artifact and way for you to, deliver an incremental value. The next is data led. Very rarely can you build a product on gut instinct alone. You need to use quantifiable data that draw insights that you can then use to reprioritize your backlog, to refine your features, to change your strategy, to build new opportunities. I can't tell you how many times I sit in a client workshop and it's the loudest person in the room, or maybe 1 or 2 of those individuals who are just coming up with all the ideas for your product. I actually had one client who was like, the hippo keeps changing everything. The hippo. I'm like, what? They're like the highest paid person's opinion. That doesn't work. It just does not work, right? You need to build a product that is prioritizing the features and capabilities that are going to generate the most return. Sounds simple, right? And the last is cross-functional teams, right? Multidisciplinary teams that have representation from across the business. If you have teams that have product owners and product strategists and designers and developers, front end and back end, and really everybody across the business, you're just more profitable because you're moving faster. You're removing any of the barriers, you're eliminating handoff, you're accelerating time to value. These teams overall are just more effective. When you apply these 4 habits, and I want to call attention that dark blue versus the purple bars that you're seeing, the dark blue are the companies that are really robustly leaning into all of these behaviors across all of those 4 development life cycle stages I shared, versus the ones that are like, yeah, we apply some of these, right? That's the difference in value, and it's significant. So if you are going to leave here today and you're going to apply these to your teams when you get back to your respective companies, I ask that you really do lean in and try to apply all 4 of them, because the return will show. I want to now turn to your competition. I want everyone to think about who are you competing with, and better yet, how many are you competing with? And that's because analysts see that by the end of 2026, 600 to 800 million new products will be developed. 600 to 800 million. That is a staggering number. Now, I will say a huge percentage of these will fail because 1, they're not prioritizing by value. 2, they're being over-reliant on the actual technology and generative AI, and they're not being maniacally focused on value. But the competition is going to get harder. It's the new reality, and there's some major implications to each of you. The first is everyone needs to think about product. Now, the good news is everyone here has bought product, tickets to a product conference, so you're already 1 step ahead of the game. But when you leave here, you leave Cleveland, you go back to your respective companies, you need to make sure everyone feels the same way. Whether they're in HR, marketing, finance, supply chain, it does not matter. They are now in the business of product. The second is if you're not already talking to your customers or your clients or your employees about custom product development, someone else is. And the third thing is if you're not already building that idea that you've been debating about in that boardroom for weeks now, maybe months, again, somebody else is, and I guarantee you this time they will beat you to it. It's the new reality, and I shared before, right? Gen AI has removed all of the barriers to experimentation, which means we need to be doing everything we can to build products quickly and to ensure that we are building the right product, that we are building the product right, and we are making the product successful. You need to use value orchestration. Value orchestration is defined here as a continuous process embedded in product development that aligns delivery with measurable outcomes, enabling smarter prioritization and reducing risk by tracking and optimizing real value creation. This is the formal definition, but simply put, if you're going to build a product, you need to have some process in place to prioritize the features of that product that will generate the highest return, right? This goes to the data comment that I made prior. One of the best tools that we have and accelerators that we like to bring to clients are something we call the golden thread. And I wanted to share this artifact because it is a low cost, easy to adopt way of working. I see some of you looking at this like, it's just a journey map. It is so much more than a journey map. It is a future view of what your product looks like that has 3 layers. It has a value layer that can tell you the ROI of every feature that you're delivering. This is a very generic, version of one, by the way. It has a value layer that shows the ROI of every single feature. It has a technical layer that will highlight the integrations and the dependencies. And most important, there's some layer of a feedback loop that allows your customers, that allows your clients, that allows your employees to add feedback to inherently, again, make you flexible, right? Pivot, change the strategy, reprioritize the backlog, make sure that you're building something that will generate value. I guarantee you, if you apply something like this, your teams will no longer debate features, but instead will align around outcomes. I'll tell you a quick story with these. Before COVID, we used to print golden threads out, literally 30, 40, 50 feet out. And I had a client in Dallas that had theirs proudly displayed on the walls of their product development space. And we were building for them this application. There was one feature that within a 5-mile radius of Dallas could recommend all of the products that you would want to buy to more likely, close out that point of sale. And I remember coming into the office one morning and there was just this big red sticky note right on that feature. No, this won't work. We don't have the data. We can't do this. And I think it was right after lunch that someone else, another employee, had slapped a sticky right over it that was no, I do. I have that data. Come see me. I sit on the 5th floor. We can talk the positives and the benefits of generative AI all day. Again, come to the IBM booth. But don't dismiss sticky notes, human interaction, design thinking. There's such value in that. I like golden threads because they bring traceability and transparency to product development. And again, it ensures that you are building the right product you're building it right, you understand which features are going to bring which value. And again, your teams will start to align around outcomes. I know that covered a lot. I just want to recap everything. Everyone is now in the product business. Again, please don't be a part of that 20% not using Gen AI. You need to use the tools and technology available to you to stay competitive. We're competing against 600 to 800 million new products, but we have to do that with intent. We need to be maniacally focused on business and user value. And that's what value orchestration is. And if you are going to apply that all, and if there's one thing that you can do when you leave Cleveland, it's ensure that your teams have 4 behaviors, because these are the biggest differentiators in teams that are seeing that higher 60% ROI and teams that are seeing 30% or even less or even 0. And that's teams that are being flexible, targeted, and incremental, that are data-led and are cross-functional. If you're interested in seeing the full report, I'll leave this up. Please take your phones out, scan the QR code. This is the IBV report. IBM's Institute of Business Value delivers trusted technology-based insights to help leaders make smarter decisions and more informed technology investments. This report will go a little bit more in depth than what I shared. And if you're interested in having more of a conversation or going deeper into your specific product needs, again, come visit the IBM booth. Let's grab a drink, coffee. Look forward to hearing how we can help you build products that matter fast. Thank you so much.